2 days ago, a document was signed that completely resets the global chessboard. And the thing is, it's called the Islamabad Memorandum of Understanding. So it was signed remotely by President Trump and the Iranian President Perzeshkian Khan. I can't pronounce his name. Now, on paper, it's a ceasefire to the end of the 2026 Iran war. But in reality, it's a countdown timer for those of us that are tired of paying higher gas, thinking it's going to go down. It might just go back up. I think that this is a 60-day ticking clock for those of us that are in a prep mindset, always looking to make sure stuff is together. And you should be looking to make sure that you're prepared. So if this negotiation breaks down in 60 days, which it looks like it could, because Iran is saying that Israel violated the very first part of the MOU and they attacked Hezbollah in Lebanon, and therefore the Strait of Hormuz is now closed again. Listen, in all actuality, I think that we're going to kind of like trudge through this 60-day period and that the ceasefire will kind of hold, but we won't be back at full kinetic war. But you have really less than 2 months to prepare for the worst. Today, we break down what is actually in the deal and your step-by-step 60-day survival blueprint for anything that's going to be hitting your pocket. So let's just talk about like the raw intel. So on June 17th, a 14 clause memorandum of understanding, MOU, it had a bunch of stuff in it. But the biggest thing that I really take away from it is the ceasefire. So it calls for an immediate halt of military operations on all front, explicitly wrapping in Lebanon. Like they wanted Lebanon wrapped in there as well. They care about Hezbollah, et cetera, et cetera. The shipping lanes. Iran has agreed to open the Strait of Hormuz to toll-free commercial traffic for 60 days only, while they negotiate final terms. The U.S. has to lift its naval blockade within 30 days. The financials. The U.S. is releasing billions in frozen Iranian assets, granting immediate treasury waivers for Iranian oil exports. Get this, working on a $300 billion regional reconstruction fund. So I guess different parts of the region are going to give Iran some bread, maybe in the form of sanction relief or buying oil or whatever to help rebuild the nation. We'll talk about who do we think that really means. And there's a few other things, but I think that there's a catch behind all of this because this is not a permanent peace deal. It's not even a peace deal. It's an MOU. And it's not a treaty because treaties have to be run through Congress. It's a temporary, highly volatile 60-day window to hammer out what I think is the impossible. Iran's nuclear enrichment program, if they can't agree by mid-August, the deal expires, the strait closes, and the war could turn hot again. Now, there's a bunch of points in this that I didn't highlight, but these are the ones I wanted to talk about the most, the ceasefire. So Iran believes that the ceasefire has already been broken by our greatest ally, by them attacking Lebanon and Hezbollah, in that they were prompted just today to close the Strait of Hormuz. And we're seeing that only traffic that originates from Iranian ports are getting through the strait as of right now, June 19th, 2026. That may change by the time you watch this video, but I'm just telling you how they feel about this shit. So we got shipping lanes that are maybe seem to be closed, but think of it this way. We're saying for 60 days, the Strait of Hormuz has to be open and it has to be toll free. What that really is saying is you survived a war with us, and now maybe in 60 days, you and Oman can tag team that ass and start charging vessels to transit the Strait of Hormuz. Here's the thing about that. I think that this can incentivize other countries, Indonesia, Australia, anybody that's like Spain, Morocco, anybody that has a body of water, a strait where vessels need to transit so that they don't have to go around entire continents. It may incentivize them to do the same damn thing. Like, why would you not think to yourself, like, oh, look at that. So all we got to do is just, we could just possibly just close down this strait, close down this body of water, and then we can start charging tolls. That's an issue. The financial parts. There was a time when President Obama literally, was putting pallets of cash on an aircraft that belonged to Iran that we had in sanctions and flying it back over there. And a lot of folks shit all over that. Me particularly, if it was their bread, you know what I'm talking about, whatever. I want to get our bread right. But now it seems like we may be allowing the release of funds of theirs that have been sanctioned all over the world, whether it's in Qatar or from the US or whatever, stuff that's been held up. But not only that, we're thinking about a regional rebuild program. Do we really think that if we do a $300 billion build back Iran program, they're going to use that to rebuild schools and gymnasiums? And no. They're going to do that to shore up the regime, maybe reinvest in their ballistic missiles program, maybe shore up their military forces, make sure their railroads are right. Come on now. I don't know if I like that. And the thing is, you would think like, X, it sounds like you want the war to continue. Nope. I'm glad this shit is done, because I just rode out the other day to put some gas in the whip, and that thing was 14 cents cheaper. And it seemingly we had less than 2 weeks left in our emergency, reserve, petroleum reserve, that we were pumping out. You want to know why gas hasn't been $8, $9, $10 a gallon? Because we've been using our emergency reserve to artificially keep gas prices low. So listen, I'm cool with this shit wrapping up. What I'm not cool with is all the stuff that may come from it, and how this 60-day threshold really might just be an alert antenna for all my prep type stuff. I got a lot of prep stuff going on that I'm starting to go through, pulling out Vertex bags, Yeti bags, making sure gas mask stuff is good to go. Just things that I may decide to get to. The Strait of Hormuz is a critical stuff that comes through for fertilizer, petroleum, stuff that's made of rubber, starts its infancy sometimes out of the Strait of Hormuz. So why does this interim peace deal make me feel so icky? Mainly because it makes me feel like I need to give you guys some advice on preparing for shit, because this is really artificial. I think that some politicians need this conflict to be in the rearview mirror. And I don't think its kinetic activity is going to start again in 60 days. But what I do think may happen is that the global economic stance could be forever influenced by Oman and Iran if they start to charge tolls in the Strait of Hormuz, because that can influence oil prices for years and years to come. So are we going to snap back to violence? I don't know. I don't necessarily think so. But could we start to see cyber attacks on infrastructure if they start to get more money? Could we see massive spikes in fuel costs? Yes. Could we see potential grid strain? Absolutely. They get a chance to regroup and get their ducks in a row. I can see any of that stuff happening. You do not want to buy an insurance policy, on your house while it's on fire. You do it before anything were to go down, right? And I think that that's the mindset that we should be having right now. So the 60-day blueprint, first off, take a look at your energy and fuel stabilization. Make sure that you have at least 1 to 14 days of whatever fuel sources you see fit, whether that's actual gas or diesel, natural gas or propane, whatever. If you can store it because you're going to need it, this is your chance to go to Facebook Marketplace, see if there's a solution for me to store and properly keep these items that I'm going to need. If you're able to even do 30 to 60 days, that might be even more dope. You may have to learn how to use fuel additives, audit your alternative to power sources. So if you normally use a diesel or propane generator or gas generator, maybe you start to look at solar generators, battery backups, shit like that. That's how I think you should be doing in weeks 1 and 2 of this whole 60-day ceasefire. 3 and 4, take a deep dive in your pantry. Take a look at everything that's in your pantry, maybe even remove it if you're able to do so, and think about the global supply chain is affected by fuel prices. So if there's anything that you want to buy in bulk now, you may want to consider to do that. So shelf-stable foods, essential medications, household consumables, you might want to buy that stuff before there's any type of price hikes in August. We're already seeing price hikes right now, but if the prices are stabilizing, you might want to just get that stuff while you still have the opportunity. Now, water security and off-grid utility. This might be a little bit more difficult for you, but if you want to shift your focus to water defense, that might be something that you may want to look at. I think you should have a minimum of 1 gallon of water per person per day for at least 3 weeks. That is a large ask for some people. I have a family of 7. That is 7 gallons of water per person per day for 21 days for this family. So I have a lot of storage prepared for mine. I also live 400 feet from a creek. I have the ability to gather that water, process it, and drink it, and make it potable, use it for bathing, use it for cooking. I have a plan for that. You may not be in that same type of refuge, but you may want to decide to invest in 5-gallon water bottles, fill them up at Walmart. You may want to decide to figure out different ways to treat water that comes out of your faucets, figure out plans to fill up your bathtubs, because that's 400 gallons of water per bathtub just laying around right there. But you need to have a robust plan. If you can't come up with a filtration system, because them things can be expensive AF and it's a big nut to ask to buy one of those right now, like gravity fed or stuff like that, you might want to, at a minimum, get purification tablets so that you can at least purify water in chunks so that it is consumable. Because if there's regional instability, if like Iran comes back with a force of vengeance, sleeper cells are woken up, you don't want an infrastructure cyber attack to affect your drinking water, because yes, water comes from pipes, but the pressure that brings that water to our houses are ran by plants that run off electricity. And at the end of the day, you want to be able to have access to water. Another thing I would think about, I just talked about this the other day, you could live a couple days without water, maybe a little bit over a week without food, but you may want to consider the acquisition of gas masks, the ability to breathe through that type of stuff, because you only can live minutes without clean air. This is just me being deep prep type mode. I have a gas mask for everybody in my family, to include the crazy gas mask that goes over my 3-year-old's face, because she would never wear one that would fit directly to her face. But maybe that's something to consider, but that could cost you hundreds, if not thousands of dollars. But the final one I would say is you need to think about audit your comms and your security. So you should have some type of emergency comm plan. I'm not ham radio certified, but you can still get regular radios. You can get a ham radio and not use the ham functionality of it. CB radios, you can just come up with a plan to be able to communicate with one another just in case you're not able to use the good old cell phones. Maybe you consider getting yourself a GPS tracker and paying for subscription services through something like Garmin. And you just want to be able to have a way to communicate with your family in an off-grid or even inside your house, but no grid scenario. So that's one thing. Also, a full security check of your property, ensuring that your perimeter is secure and ensuring that you have different ways to have the redundancy of locks, redundancy of guarding entrances, maybe taking a look at your weapons. I think you should be doing that right now, because at the end of the day, this memorandum is, I think it's really pulling the wool over our eyes. It is so much stuff around us that could just straight up and down distract us, between the reflecting pool in DC changing colors and shit. And we got a brand new Air Force One, and, you know, the NBA Finals was recently, and the Stanley Cup is going on, and the World Cup is going on. It's just so much stuff going on that you can easily be distracted. But I would just say, focus on things that are critical, important to you. Stay vigilant, stay safe, and keep on prepping, in my opinion, because this could be the beginning of a lot more hard days ahead. At a minimum, it could just be your pockets. I'm nervous about gas spiking over $4, $5 a gallon here in Texas. So I'm really worried about the first point that I made with you guys. But what are you most worried about? I would love to know what your comments down below. First time stopping by, hit the subscribe button. I would love to have you part of the battalion. If this is not your first time stopping by, well, thank you once again for watching me run my grape. Everyone else, we'll speak soon.